Like, I don't have claws or teeth. I can't run. I can't climb. Like, humans are fucking useless. I am helpless if something attacks me right now. Hi, my name's Annette, and I'm just gonna get straight to the point. This is a story, and it's a real story. It's not a ghost story, even though what happened was really scary. So you're gonna need a little bit of backstory to understand the full scope of the situation that I put myself in this particular night. So this all went down. I think I had barely turned 18, which is why this whole thing was able to happen in the first place. Because in Norway, you can get your license when you turn 18. And I had just gotten my driver's license. Another thing in Norway, actually they fixed this now, but previously you had to actually pay like $8 for public transport if it was during the night, like the nightly routes. And this is relevant if you're out on town, partying, clubbing. And also when you are 18 in Norway, that's when you are allowed to start drinking alcohol and go out to town and stuff like that. So it was pretty usual that if you went to the city, you tried to get somebody to come pick you up. And it would typically be cheaper to get somebody to drive you if you could fill up the car than it would be having public transport. So there would be like Facebook groups or just friend group chats or stuff like that where people intending to drive would get connected with people wanting to be picked up. So this particular night, I had just gotten my license. I was like, yes, I'm gonna make some extra money. I'm gonna stay up tonight. It was a Friday or Saturday night, I don't remember which. And I'm just gonna drive people to and from the clubs. Now this usually means that people going out will be one wave, and then people coming back home will be another wave. So the first wave would be like 11, 12 o'clock, something like that. A lot of people want to be driven out. I drove some groups of people to the city, then I went back home. And then from around 12 until 3 o'clock, when all the clubs close, I didn't have anything to do because nobody's going to the city or home from the city between those hours. So I had 3 hours during the middle of the night to kill. Now, another relevant thing to this story is that I had just started with my new hobby, which was photography. So I had only just started learning about the basics, trying out different techniques. So I did long exposures of like the city and got these beautiful glowy pictures, and looking back, they were pretty ugly, but I was like excited and I wanted to try new things. So there is this place pretty close to where I live. It's like a 10-minute drive or 15-minute drive, where you get access to like a very, very small hike up to a beautiful lake with just like forests and mountains behind it. So I got this idea. I should drive to this lake. The practical thing with this hike is that you only have to walk for like 10 minutes from where you park your car until you get a beautiful view at that lake. So it's like, it's not really a hike, it's a short walk, and you can walk around the water and stuff like that. So it's not really a hike if you're from Norway, but it's like, it's a small trip. You can go with family, with kids, stuff like that. But this was the middle of the night, right? It was 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the night. So I thought, what a beautiful opportunity for me to get some long exposure shots of this lake. It's probably going to be still water. It was a clear sky. Maybe I get some stars. I don't know. Maybe it will look really, really cool. Maybe there's even some fog up there. It'll be really nice if I could go up there. I have these hours to kill in the middle of the night anyways. Let's just go there and try and take some pictures. So I do that because I'm an idiot. So I pack up all my stuff, my tripod, my camera, everything. And I drive the 15 minutes or whatever it was from my house to the parking spot where I could walk from. I grab all my stuff. I have a backpack with my camera equipment. I have a jacket, my phone, and basically nothing else. So I walk up there, and as I start walking, I'm walking into the forest, kind of slightly up a mountain, and it's pitch black, but the moon is really big, so I actually got a lot of moonlight. Like the moonlight was I was actually casting a shadow made purely from moonlight. So I didn't even plan that, but it was really, really fortunate because I didn't bring a flashlight, so I wouldn't have been able to see anything if it wasn't for the moon. So I start walking, and as I walk, I'm walking further into the forest. It's getting darker, but like I said, I could see a little bit, and I am not a person who believes in paranormal stuff at all. I'm a very realistic, down-to-earth kind of person. But of course, when you're alone in a forest, you get those fleeting thoughts of, was that something moving? Was that something moving? And then you try and just snap your mind out of that, because if you start going down that road, I could just as well go home. So I managed to stay in my rational, down-to-earth mind, and I think this is beautiful. I get up there, the lake opens up before me, and it's gorgeous. So it's the path, the lake, and then the path goes kind of around the lake, and there are lots of trees, bushes, mountains around, stuff like that. So I find myself a spot pretty much like directly across from the path up from the parking spot, just directly across, as close as I could get to the water. I was sitting on some rocks. I sit down, I get my camera up, and I start like fixing stuff. And when you sit and you're quiet in the forest or in the mountains, there are many sounds in the mountains that you don't think about when you're there during the day. Like, there are some rustlings here and there, and I still stay calm. I mean, everything is just, it's normal, right? There's probably some mice around, some squirrels maybe, I don't know. I don't really mind it. I set up my camera, I'm working on this, and I'm sitting super concentrated. I try one shot, I wait. So I've been sitting up there for maybe like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that. I try again. And then one of the most bone-chilling things I have ever experienced happened. Something, and that something was close. I'm talking 20 meters, a few car lengths away. Something screams at me. It's behind me at this point. Something screams, and it's loud. It's like it's really, really loud. And remember, I've been sitting there quietly for 15 minutes, not saying a word, just listening to the smallest rustlings of leaves and grass. And something screams from behind me. And what I did was, I think it was my reaction was really, really primal, I think. Because what I did was, I turned to the noise, and I just freeze. I didn't even breathe, I think. And I sat like that, completely stiff, staring at the spot where the sound came from. And I sat like that for 5 minutes. And nothing more happened. Now let me describe that scream. Because in my head, like, my body was completely frozen, but in my head, my mind was racing, trying to rationalize what just happened. Now, the scream was, like, you can imagine the scream a squirrel would make. It would be more of a squeak than a scream, right? The noise was way too deep to be from that tiny of an animal, but it was also too high-pitched to be from a human, at least an adult human. So my mind was racing, like, what the fuck is this? And I'm Norwegian. I've grown up in woods and mountains. I have never heard a sound like this in my life. And I was so afraid. So I'm still sitting there. The problem is, this is the path. This is the lake. I was sitting here, and the sound, the scream, had come from between me and the path back down to the car. And I hadn't even heard a rustle of anything after the scream. And it didn't even take like more than a minute or two for me to start questioning if this had even happened. And it was like, it was a loud scream. It definitely happened, but it was so surreal. I was so afraid. My heart was just thumping like out of my chest loud. Like all the hairs on my body was just standing up, and I was still sitting there staring at the same spot where the sound had come from, but nothing more happened. So I slowly started to move again, like, okay, what just happened? I was still being super, super quiet, and all rational thoughts had just left my brain at this point. So what I started doing was, I tried moving without making a single noise. I picked up my camera and my camera bag. I stood up and then I bolted past whatever spot where the scream had been and down the path. I didn't stop to listen for anything else. I just bolted everything I could back into the car, opened the car, threw my bag in, hopped in, sat down, started the motor, and I drove the fuck away from there. Then I came back home. I had been gone for, I don't know, something like an hour, maybe a little bit more. I still had an hour until I was supposed to pick up the people coming home from being clubbing. And I sat at home and I just couldn't believe what had just happened. Like, any other day like this, I would have just sat at home, watched some Netflix series while I waited between those hours. But yeah, I have no idea what it was. Like, in my head, when that happened, I tried to rationalize, is it big enough to be a bear? Which is completely illogical because we don't have bears here, but like, it was definitely smaller than a bear. And it did not sound at all like a deer or something like that. It came from something too big to be like a squirrel or like a weasel. Weasel? Is that a thing? I think that's the animal I'm thinking of. It was too big to be something like that. And the only thing I can like rationalize as an animal is that maybe it was a fox. Because the scream was very human-like, but it was too small to be a human. Now I just hope to God that that actually was a fox. I've come to rest believing that it was probably a fox. Like, remember, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in paranormal stuff. I don't think something paranormal happened. But my God, it is some of the most scary things I have ever experienced. And I felt like in that moment when that scream happened, I just became so aware of how useless humans are. I kept thinking, like, if something came to attack me right now that is kind of big, like, I don't have claws or teeth, I can't run, I can't climb, like, humans are fucking useless. I am helpless if something attacks me right now. That was the thoughts going, spinning in my head as that happened. But nothing happened. And that's it. I'll never know what it was. I can only speculate. And like I said, I think maybe that what the fox says is fucking get the fuck out of my lake. Oh my God. Yeah. So that's basically my story. If you have any suggestions on what the animal could have been, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Like, I'm 28 now, so this is 10 years ago. Well, I'm actually getting a little bit chilly just talking about this story. Woo-hoo. I never did that again, let's just say that. And yeah, I hope I never experience anything like that ever again. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing. I will start posting stuff. This is kind of like my first YouTube video ever. Leave a like if you actually liked it, consider that. And yeah, I also stream on Twitch if you're interested in just chatting with me. Anyways, that's it for my story. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!